Welcome to IT Essentials Virtual Desktop. Our virtual desktop enables you to learn the steps required to assemble a desktop computer. If this is your first time, please take a moment to walk through the key features of the virtual desktop. This tutorial is always available by pressing Help in the upper right-hand corner. There are three main modes: Learn, Test, and Explore. Learn mode walks you through the assembly of the desktop computer. Test mode allows you to virtually build a desktop computer without any assistance. Explore mode gives you information about many features and components of the desktop. Use the main navigation menu on the left side of the screen to switch between modes. The Learn mode is made up of 7 layers: power supply, motherboard, adapter cards, internal drives, external bays, internal cables, and external cables. The Explore mode gives you 4 internal views of the desktop. Test mode gives you all the components installed, but they are not separated layers. The anti-static mat is located at the bottom of the main window. It contains all the parts you will need to assemble your virtual desktop. Use the left and right navigation arrows to scroll through the components on the anti-static mat. Some components need to be properly aligned before you can install them. For these components, there is an alignment tool that pops up automatically. Click the clockwise and counterclockwise buttons to turn the component until you believe it is properly aligned. The Install button looks like an arrow pointing down. Click it to install the component. If it is not properly aligned, the Install button will show a red X. If the component is properly aligned, clicking the Install button will begin the installation animation of that component. In the Explore mode and in the Learn mode, many components give you a Learn More option. When you click this option, you see the component in a separate window with the slider tool below it. In the upper right corner of this window, there may be several boxes that present different views of the component. The slider tool has a needle that you can control with your mouse. Move it back and forth to see a 360-degree view of the component. The boxes that show other views can also be selected from this window. You are now ready to begin the module. Click on the power supply layer to begin. At any time, you may return to this Help menu by clicking the Help button in the top right corner. A power supply provides the needed voltage to power the various electronic circuits that make up the PC. Attach the power supply to the case. To install power supply, move the power supply to the case. Align the holes in the power supply with the holes in the case. Secure the power supply to the case using the proper screws. You have completed installing the items on this layer. You may now return to the course lesson or continue exploring your virtual computer. The motherboard is the main printed circuit board that connects all the components of the computer. On the motherboard, you will work with the following components: CPU, thermal compound, CPU heatsink, fan assembly, RAM module, and motherboard. To install RAM, retrieve one RAM module from the anti-static mat. Align the latch notches on the RAM module to the notches in the slot and press down till the side tabs click. Make sure that the side tabs have locked the RAM module and visually check for exposed contacts. Repeat for second RAM module. Install CPU. Retrieve the CPU from the anti-static mat. Rotate the CPU so the connection 1 indicator is lined up with pin 1 on the CPU socket. Align the orientation notches on the CPU to the orientation keys on the socket. Place the CPU gently into the socket. Close the CPU load plate and secure it in place by closing the load lever and moving it under the load lever retention tab. Apply small amount of thermal compound to the CPU chip and spread it evenly. Note: thermal compound is only necessary when not included on the heatsink. Line up the heatsink fan assembly retainers to the holes on the motherboard. Place the heatsink fan assembly onto the CPU socket, being careful not to pinch the CPU fan wires. Tighten the heatsink/fan assembly retainers to secure it in place. Plug the heatsink into the motherboard. Install the motherboard. Slowly move the motherboard into the case while you align the holes for the screws and the standoffs. Attach the motherboard to the case using the appropriate screws. You have completed installing the items on this layer. You may now return to the course lesson or continue exploring your virtual computer. Adapter cards are installed on the motherboard to add functionality to your computer. A network interface card, NIC, is an adapter card used to connect your computer to a network. Install NIC. Move the NIC to the case. Align the NIC to the PCI X1 slot on the motherboard. Press down gently on the NIC until the card is fully seated. Secure the NIC by attaching the PC mounting bracket to the case with a screw. A wireless NIC is an adapter card used to connect your computer to another computer or a wireless access point using radio signals. Move the wireless NIC to the case. Align the wireless NIC to the PCI slot on the motherboard. Press down gently on the wireless NIC until the card is fully seated. Secure the wireless NIC by attaching the PC mounting bracket to the case with a screw. A video adapter is an adapter card that sends data to a computer display. Install video adapter. Move the video adapter to the case. Align the video adapter to the PCI EX16 slot on the motherboard. Press down gently on the video adapter until the card is fully seated. Secure the video adapter by attaching the PC mounting bracket to the case with a screw. You have completed installing the items on this layer. You may now return to the course lesson or continue exploring your virtual computer. The hard disk drive, HDD, is a magnetic drive that stores large amounts of data on fixed media. Install the HDD into the case. Move the HDD to the case. Position the HDD so it aligns with the 3.5 drive bay. Insert the HDD into the drive bay. Secure the HDD to the case using the proper screws. You have completed installing the items on this layer. You may now return to the course lesson or continue exploring your virtual computer. The CD-RW DVD drive is an optical storage device that reads and writes information to CDs and reads DVDs. Move the optical drive to the case. Position the optical drive so it aligns with the 525 drive bay. Insert the optical drive into the drive bay. Secure the optical drive to the case using the proper screws. A floppy disk drive, FDD, is a magnetic drive that reads and writes information to floppy diskettes. Install the optical drive and FDD. Move the FDD to the case. Position the FDD so it aligns with the 3.5 drive bay. Insert the FDD into the drive bay. Secure the FDD to the case using the proper screws. You have completed installing the items on this layer. You may now return to the course lesson or continue exploring your virtual computer. Connect all internal cables to the appropriate computer components. Be sure to match pin 1 to pin 1 when connecting cables to the devices. Align the 20-pin ATX power supply cable to the socket on the motherboard and gently press down to secure the connection. Align the 4-pin auxiliary power connector to the auxiliary power socket on the motherboard and gently press down to secure the connection. Plug in a SATA power supply cable to the hard drive. Plug in a Berg power supply cable to the floppy drive. Plug in a Molex power supply cable to the optical drive. Align the 3-pin case fan power cable and gently press down to secure to the case fan pins on the motherboard. Align and plug in the SATA cable to the motherboard socket. Align and plug in the other end of the SATA data cable to the hard drive. Align and plug in the PATA cable to the motherboard socket. Align and plug in the other end of the PATA data cable to the optical drive. Align and plug in the floppy data cable to the motherboard socket. Align and plug in the other end of the floppy data cable to floppy drive. You have completed installing the items on this layer. You may now return to the course lesson or continue exploring your virtual computer. To complete the computer assembly, attach the panels and secure them to the case using the panel screws. You are now ready to connect the external cables to the ports on the back of the computer. Take note that connect the power cable after all other external cables are attached. Align and attach the monitor cable to the video port on the video adapter. Secure it by tightening the screws on the connector. Align and plug in the keyboard cable to the PS2 port. Align and plug in the mouse cable to the PS2 port. Align and plug in the USB cable to the port. Align and plug in the Ethernet cable to the port. Align and plug in the power cable to the port. You have completed installing the items on this layer. You may now return to the course lesson or continue exploring your virtual computer.